I remember I was doing just random ground tags. It was like some sort of fancy BMW, red BMW pulls up. The passenger door opens and she like leans her head out because I think she was driving and she's like, "Do you need any help?" I remember I paused for a couple seconds and then I'm just like, "No." And then I just kept painting. I've been a graffiti artist for over 15 years now, and even on YouTube I've been running the channel for over 12 years. I've painted in countries like Australia, New Zealand, of course here in Canada lots, and I've been very lucky to sell my work to people in dozens of countries around the world. But over that 15-year period, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my biggest mistakes I've made in my graffiti career. So today we're going to be talking about the top 4 biggest mistakes I've made over my 15-year-long graffiti career, so far at least, and I'll have some stories for each as well. Also, today's video is sponsored by Sciz, so thank you to them for supporting the channel today. So I'm going to tell you a story later on about this one. Now, I got into graffiti when I was very young, and even 13, 14 years old, I had the markers in the pockets just in case I came across a rusty sign or something like that. When you're that young especially, you are fearless. A lot of really inexperienced and oftentimes younger graffiti writers are fearless like that, and fear is a necessity. Fear is what helps us make decisions that support our well-being. So when you're painting dumb spots, and what I mean by dumb spots is like very highly visible spots, lots of randomness going on, aspects that you can't control, especially, you know, we're talking about painting in the less legal environment here. It's all a recipe for disaster, at least where I've painted. So if you happened to be a graffiti writer painting in the less legal environment, you would want to minimize that unpredictability and that randomness as much as you can. Painting dumb spots is not how to do that. I'll tell you a story a little bit later about a run-in I had with some random woman driving a fancy BMW. We'll get to that. This one might sound kind of odd to you guys, but one really big mistake I feel like I've made is not putting more effort into learning other areas of art besides graffiti. Now, luckily, graffiti pieces are running rampant with artistic concepts. You can't make a good graffiti piece without knowing artistic concepts really, really well. So it's not so much from that side of things, it's from a kind of commissions standpoint. Because I haven't put enough practice into learning things like better character drawing and things like that, I can't really market my commission services to include that kind of thing if someone wants a mural done or something like that. So basically, I just paint graffiti. Now, I am trying to kind of learn character drawing a little bit more, and there are other areas of art that I do besides graffiti as well, just none of it has translated into my murals. But like I said, I'm trying to make more time to do that, and kind of conveniently, Sciz, today's sponsor, has helped me do that. They've hooked me up with a trial of their platform, and they've done the same for all of you guys watching as well. But there's a class on their platform called Character Design by a guy called Gerardo Escamilla, I think. But I went through that class and it's kind of helped me figure out how to make characters a little bit more dynamic, which I tend to struggle with, I'll be honest. Looking through their platform, I've done a couple small ones, like one on geometric watercolor by Carrie Chan. Anything geometric, I take a look at. Crafty's really good about adding new classes all the time, and as a member, you get access to their live streams with the pros. They have every kind of creative class you could possibly think of, and they've really hooked you guys up this time because the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description and sign up will get a full 1 year of their premium membership for $1.49. You can't beat it. So if you are interested, they have lots of drawing, lots of painting classes on there. I would check it out. First link in the description. But anyway, I did promise story time, so here it is. I was probably 14, 15 at most. I decided that this road leading up to kind of a neighborhood, like a suburb, the sidewalk was a good place to do some ground tags. Don't get me wrong, I love a good ground tag, but this was like a road in the middle of a field leading to a neighborhood. If you were driving by, and there's plenty of traffic on this road, you can see someone just like on the ground doing something from a mile away. Actually, in this case, literally, not figuratively. And this I don't know, it was like some sort of fancy BMW, red BMW pulls up, and it just like pulls onto the side of the road right ahead of me. And the passenger door swings open, and this random like lady gets out. She's probably in her 40s, just living the suburban mom life, I'm sure. The passenger door opens, and she like leans her head out, because I think she was driving, and she's like, "Do you need any help?" I remember thinking at the time, what a dumb thing to say. Like, what is this woman doing? I remember I paused for a couple seconds, and then I'm just like, no. And then I just kept painting. Then the door just closed and she drove away. I think luckily I had the wherewithal at that point to be like, okay, I better get out of here pretty quick. But if that doesn't scream dumb painting spot, I don't know what does. Like, don't be dumb like me. Paint the right spots, guys. Come on. Look, I get it, everyone wants to paint more, and paint ain't cheap. But I specifically 100% believe that there's no substitute for using spray paint to develop a good throwy. Throwies and spray paint are just so intertwined, there's no substitute for it at all. I think a big mistake I've made is not working on my throwies more, which is a consequence of not painting more. Now, my throwies aren't terrible, but no matter what name I'm using, they're just not as good as my tags or my pieces. And that's been something that really bothers me for a long time. So my piece of advice for this is, if you want to do good throwies, just make yourself paint more. Throws are nice because they don't use up a lot of spray paint. You can do hollows, you don't even have to do fill-ins, right? And just get the reps in to develop a good throwy. But for other aspects of painting, seeing how I've been able to kind of change my style, develop my style, and really kind of actually create some pretty conceptually sound graffiti pieces, it's been really heartbreaking to not be able to have those pieces translate well from a sketch onto a wall. Nobody wants their B game on the wall, right? You want that to be your A game, and when you're able to create some actually pretty complicated pieces, when you get to that level conceptually, you're gonna need the really polished can control to be able to translate those really well onto the large scale. If you haven't painted enough, like I feel I haven't, your can control just isn't gonna be good enough to get those super complex wild styles into a full piece format on a wall. Similarly, if you're painting even simpler pieces, but with some time pressure, can control is even more important there. So just paint more. Yes, YouTube. This is the one that I think is the super impactful mistake that I've made over my graffiti career. So you're gonna want to hear me out, especially if you're the kind of graffiti artist who's thought, hey, I might want to start a YouTube channel. I see other people doing it. I think I could do this. There's three kind of reasons that I think this is a big mistake. The first reason is just more of a small annoyance. If you do have a YouTube channel, obviously outside of YouTube, and I don't know how many people realize this, I have to write a different name. I'm not writing Sciz everywhere. I would be writing something else. The second way that YouTube is kind of, I think, a mistake generally is when I meet other graffiti artists and graffiti writers in person, there's two paths you can go down where they've asked about your work. The first being, if they ask about my work and I just show them some of my pieces, I'll be honest, generally they seem to legitimately be pretty impressed at the pieces I can pull off, which is kind of flattering, but it's also nice to hear because those are the graffiti writers and artists who are legitimately getting up, have that street credit, and have that knowledge. It feels good when those people are impressed by your work, which is funny because conversely, the few people who have seen very little of my work and tend to comment on it on the YouTube channel have the complete opposite resume and don't have street cred or any other kind of credit. I've been around long enough to know who's who and to know whose opinion you should be taking into account. That's a skill you need to develop, I think, in this line of work. But the second path you can go down when writers ask about your work is telling them about your YouTube channel. And this is where the mistake is. The broader graffiti community, I think, still today, even to some extent, believe that people who are sharing their graffiti art and their work on YouTube are not legitimate in some respect. And that's because graffiti art in general has always been a very kind of underground, inaccessible art form, right? Or that's how it should be according to those more kind of graffiti purists. So when they ask about your work, if you say, hey, here's my YouTube channel, channel or I run a YouTube channel, period, all of a sudden they're very disinterested in associating, which is the complete opposite of what happens when you just show them your pieces or show them the graph you have done. So it's a very interesting contrast is my point, and having that YouTube presence goes a long way towards alienating a lot of graffiti writers, rightfully or not rightfully. But that's not the one big reason I'm saying YouTube is a mistake generally, and this is gonna be some real talk for you guys, so you're gonna get a bit of a look at what my life is kind of like and what probably a lot of people who try and make YouTube work, what their lives are like too. To run a channel like this, you sacrifice a lot of income, a lot of time, which you could be using to improve at graffiti or anything else, and you sacrifice a lot of security as well. I don't know how many of you would know this, but what I do is I work part-time and work enough hours to basically just scrape by, and then all the extra time that I have goes into running the channel and trying to make it grow. There are no real days off. It's either I'm working or I'm working on the channel, and I need to do both, otherwise I can't pay my rent. For me, it's put me in this weird spot where by working part-time instead of full-time, I'm sacrificing tens of thousands of dollars of income per year, and it's put me in a situation where, because I've done that, I actually need to do the YouTube side of things, because the very little bit of income I make from the YouTube stuff is the difference between me just scraping by and not being able to pay rent. And because of how that situation is, if you all of a sudden don't get scheduled enough hours at work, or you get injured at work and you lose your income, you have to leave work to take care of a loved one, if you get divorced and all of a sudden have to pay child support, if your car all of a sudden needs maintenance unexpectedly, you don't have the financial security to tolerate those unexpected events. So this isn't for everyone. It's not glamorous. I know a lot of the big YouTubers make it look like such, but it really isn't. You have to understand, when you give up income, you're not just giving up money, you're giving up some of your humanity as well, because you're giving up the ability to properly take care of kids or a partner or have a normal home. So from that perspective specifically, I think a lot of people would see this as a very big mistake. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. I'm very, very proud that even though I have had zero success doing what I love, I still to this day make the time to do that exact thing that I do love and haven't conformed to what a normal life is supposed to look like for most people. And because I know that those decisions I've made support and represent my values so well, it would be very difficult for someone to make me feel like I've made the wrong decision in my life with respect to this. But it's not all bad. If you want to check out one of my very best videos, you can check out the video on screen right now. It's a review of the dang master blasters that Bombing Science got us to do, and there's a little mini kind of graffiti documentary in there as well about the spot we're painting. Make sure you check out Craftsy and get that 1-year membership for $1.49. I had a question for the first time in a while: where do I pick one of these tags, throws and pieces shirts up? They are linked below as well if you want to get yourself your very own tags, throws and pieces shirt. I'll see you in that video soon. Till then, peace.